Hello, welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you are an existing subscriber. Today we are talking about publishing and how to publish a book, a big sort of overview of the whole process. Before we dive in, don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this kind of content, if you want to learn about publishing and writing and all of that good stuff. Do hit that subscribe button, and also don't forget to pre-order my book. My psychological thriller, The Girl Beyond the Gate, is available for pre-order in ebook and audiobook, and I will link those down below. Okay, so how do you publish a book? Firstly, there are two routes to publishing a book. There is traditional publishing and there is self-publishing, or otherwise known as indie publishing. In self-publishing, you are both writer and publisher. You handle everything yourself. You hire your own editors, you hire your own cover designer, you decide how you're going to format it and distribute it and all of that stuff. Everything that a publisher would do for you, you have to do with self-publishing, and you also have to pay for all of those services in advance. The benefit obviously being you then keep all of the royalties for yourself, and also you have full creative control. Now, I do not have any experience in self-publishing. I'm a traditionally published author, so I'm going to link some channels down below that focus more on self-publishing. So if that's the route you want to go down, check those channels out. But today we are going to be talking about traditionally publishing. So these are the books that if you go into a bookstore, or you go into the airport, or you go into your local supermarket and you see a book on the shelves, most likely they have been traditionally published. So the first step for traditionally publishing is to write your book. This might seem really stupid and obvious, but since getting my book deal, let me tell you, I've had so many people come up to me and say, I've got a really good idea for a book. Can you pitch it to your publisher? And I'm like, no. The thing is, so many people have good ideas for books. It's very easy to come up with a good idea for a book. The difficult part is turning that into a full-length novel that is then good enough to be published. Not very many people can do that. Publishers do not want to see ideas for books. They want to see a full finished manuscript that is really good quality. It's been edited, it's been worked on until your fingers bleed, because that is the only way that they're going to be sure that this book is something that they want to invest in. They will not invest in ideas. This is talking about fiction. I think it's different with non-fiction. I think if you're writing like a self-help book or a how-to book or a recipe book or things like that, then you can pitch an idea, but I think then it's more about your following and, you know, how good you are on social media and things like that. Again, I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. This is just talking about fiction, and I'm sure if you were a like huge celebrity, you could probably just pitch an idea and you get a book deal, but for the general average person, you are going to have to write a full book first. And then the second step of that is to edit your book. You have to make your book as good as you can possibly get it before submitting it to anyone. Now, I do recommend getting a second opinion on your book, an impartial second opinion, not just your mum. This second opinion could come in the form of critique partners or beta readers. Personally, for me, I did have a critique partner, but I really benefited from having a mentor. So this is a traditionally published author who decided to take me under her wing and read my book and help me work on it. You can get a mentor by entering mentorship competitions. I know there's like author mentor match that happens on Twitter, and there's a few other ways of doing it. Or sometimes, like with me, you could just see an author say, hey, I want to mentor someone, and then you can sort of stick your hand up and say, please mentor me. But whatever way you do it, I would recommend getting a second opinion. So whether it's getting beta readers who are, you know, readers who will read the book for free and then give you feedback, critique partners where you exchange books and you give feedback on their book and they give feedback on your book, or a mentor situation, definitely get some second opinions. Now, once your book is the best you can possibly make it, and I'm talking you've done a developmental edit, so you've gone through and figured out whether the story itself is strong enough, you've moved scenes around, you've deleted bits that aren't so good, you've also done like a line copy edit where you've taken out as many typos as you can and made sure your grammar's good and all those kind of things. Once it's as good as you can possibly get it, then you can move on to step 3, which is querying agents. Now, in the world of traditional publishing, you need an agent. There are some publishers who will accept submissions without you having an agent, but even if you were to get a book deal with one of those publishers, I would still recommend getting an agent, just because an agent is invaluable in the life of an author. But the majority of traditional publishers will only see your work, will only look at your work if you are represented by an agent. So that is your first port of call, trying to get yourself an agent. There are lots and lots of bad agents out there. There are a lot of people who call themselves literary agents, but they really shouldn't. They don't have the connections that they need to be an agent. They don't have the experience they need to be an agent. So make sure you're doing your research. I have a whole video on how I got my agent down below. I will link it down below and I'll put it somewhere up here. But in that video, I go into more sort of how I researched agents, how I found a good reputable agency to submit to, you know, the process of sending my query to them, all of that stuff. So definitely check out that video. And then I also have a video where I share my query letter and kind of go through how I crafted a query letter that then landed me representation. So the query letter is basically an email that you send to an agent and you say, I would like you to represent my book. This is what it's about. Basically, that's it. You don't want to talk too much about you and why you wrote the book in your query letter. You just want to focus on the book and why the agent would want to read your book. What is special about your book? What is it about? You know, why is it exciting? All of that good stuff. It should be short, it should be to the point, and then usually the agent will ask for some sample pages as well. So it's usually like the first 3 chapters or something like that. And sometimes they'll also ask for a synopsis so that they can tell whether you're good at, you know, taking a story and making it a full-length novel and, you know, it's got a good beginning, middle and end. Again, I would recommend you get a second opinion on your query. I sent my query out to lots of traditionally published authors who were offering query critiques, and that was so massively helpful. And I do offer query critiques myself. However, I will say I've got a huge backlog. I do apologise to anyone who sent me their query to critique. I will get to it. But yeah, it's been way more popular than I was expecting. So I might need to come up with some kind of system for making sure that I don't get too many at one time. But I will keep you posted on that. So while you are querying agents, once you've sent out some queries, you will start to become familiar with one of the hardest parts of traditional publishing, which is waiting. Traditional publishing is slow. It involves lots and lots of waiting for people to get back to you, and it can be really, really tough, especially on your mental health. Like, my mental health absolutely plummeted while I was querying. One thing I would definitely recommend you do while you are querying your novel is to write something else. It gives you something to focus on, and it also means that if this book doesn't work out, you've got something to fall back on. Now, when I say write something else, I do not mean the sequel to the book that you are currently querying. Remember, it may not get picked up, so you don't want to spend loads of time working on a sequel to a book that may never get picked up. Write something completely separate, and then you can be focusing on that while you're waiting for, you know, the responses to come in from your queries. If it doesn't work out, you've got another book that you can start to query not too far away. Now, you will inevitably get rejections on your query, but hopefully at some point you will get a full request, which is where the agent will come back to you and say, hi, really enjoyed your sample pages, please could you send me the full manuscript. So again, this is why it's really important to make sure you have finished your book and edited your book before you start querying, because you want to be able to get that email and then immediately send them the full manuscript, and then you'll be waiting again. So work on something else. Now again, you may end up having some rejections to your full manuscripts. I had a really high full request rate, but then quite a lot of rejections on that full manuscript. So, you know, prepare yourself for that, but hopefully at some point you will get a request for a phone call. So usually when an agent is going to offer you representation, they will want to chat to you on the phone, and they'll talk to you about, you know, your career ambitions and why you wrote the book, how you came up with the story, just kind of get a feel for who you are as an author. And then if they decide they want to work with you, they will offer you representation. Now at this point you need to message all of the other agents who have your full manuscript. I don't think it's necessary to message every agent you've ever queried, but anyone who has your full manuscript, it's common courtesy to message them and say, hey, I've had this offer of representation, you know, can you get back to me by this date? Usually you can sort of say 1 to 2 weeks. Can you get back to me by this date so that I can make my decision? Now, best case scenario will be that a few different agents will offer you representation, and then suddenly the power shifts over to you and you get to make a decision. But even if you only have that one offer of representation, really sit and think about it. You need to make sure that you are really happy to work with this agent. It should be a long-term partnership. It shouldn't be something that's just for this one book and then you go off and find someone else. It should be, this person should be your agent for the whole of your career, ideally. In my opinion, it is far better to have no agent than to have a bad agent, because a bad agent can ruin your career before it's even started. So really think about the person who's offering you representation and whether you are happy for them to be your agent and to be your long-term business partner. Once you've decided which agent you want to go with, then it's time to sign the contract. I think most of them are pretty straightforward, but I would always recommend getting a second opinion with someone who knows contracts. My husband is very good at contracts, so I gave my contract to him and he looked over it, and there were a few things that I needed to question, but it was all very straightforward. So once you've got your agent, you will likely have to do some more editing. It kind of depends on which kind of agent you've signed with. Some agents are a lot more editorial than others. I specifically wanted an editorial agent. I wanted someone to come in and work with me on the book, because I'm very aware that I'm not perfect and that I need all the help I can get. So with my agent, we ended up doing one developmental edit, again, where we're looking at the structure and, you know, the story overall. And then we also did a copy line edit as well. Once you and your agent are happy with the book, you will then go on submission, which again is a very grueling time. Lots and lots of waiting. It's basically when your agent will then send your book out to publishers, to editors at publishing houses. Again, I'd really recommend working on something else while you're going through this. Have a chat with your agent to see what's the best method for feeding back any responses. So for me, I said to my agent, I don't want to hear anything about rejections. All I want to hear is good news. And if it's good news, please can you ring me rather than email me, so that I'm not constantly checking my email inbox. That's just what I had to do for my mental health. You figure out with your agent what's the best thing for you to do. But the advantage of working on something else is that your agent might be able to get you a 2-book deal, which is what happened with me. My publishing house gave me a book deal for The Girl Beyond the Gate and also my second book, which, you know, we gave them like a short pitch and they decided that they wanted to buy that book as well. So once an editor or a publishing house has decided that they would like to acquire your book, they will take it to an acquisitions meeting, which is basically where they sit down in a room with marketing and all the other people that they work with at the publishing house and try to convince them that your book is a worthwhile investment. They'll do a profit and loss report. They'll do all these crazy things. I don't actually know what goes on in those meetings properly, but they'll basically decide whether it's worth taking a risk on your book or not, because that's the thing with traditional publishing, is all of the risk falls on your publisher. They will pay you for your book. You never ever pay to publish your book in traditional publishing. Self-publishing is different, but in traditional publishing, you do not pay to publish a book. You get paid, and then the publisher takes a percentage of what you earn, essentially. Now, if it's successful at the acquisitions meeting and the whole team is in agreement that yes, they would like to buy your book, then they will make you an offer. This is where having an agent is absolutely crucial, and it's what I was saying, if you have decided to submit to publishing houses that accept submissions without an agent, at this point, if you've got an offer, I would recommend getting yourself an agent. Your agent's job is to get you the absolute best deal possible, and it's not just about how much money they're going to give you, it's also about things like your audio rights, it's about your world rights, your translation, all of those kind of things. All of the little details that go into the publishing book deal contract, your agent, it's their responsibility to make sure that you've got a really good deal and that you're not going to get screwed over in the long run. Now, you could just have one publisher offer a book deal, but you could have multiple publishing houses who want to buy your book as well. And in that situation, you can get what's called an auction, which is where like the different publishing houses basically battle it out to see who's going to get your book. The other thing that could happen is a publisher could offer a preempt, which is basically where they say to the agent, we're going to give you this large sum of money with the proviso that you take it off the table for all other publishers. So everyone else that you've sent it out to, you just take it back and say, right, this is no longer on the table. And once you and your agent have decided which book deal you're going to take, it's then time for more contracts. And once you've signed your contract, you will then get paid an advance, which is basically a lump sum that you get paid by your publisher, or actually your publisher will pay your agent, and then your agent will take their 15% or whatever their commission rate is, and then the agency will pay you. But usually you have to recoup that advance before you start earning royalties. Again, it will depend on your contract, but that's sort of the general way that it works. The other thing with the advance is it doesn't tend to come in one big lump sum. It usually is broken up, so you'll have a bit of your advance when you first sign your contract, then you'll have a bit more of your advance when you hand in the final manuscript that's all edited and polished, and then you'll get another bit of the advance when you actually publish the book. So once the contract is signed and it's all announced on social media, it's that like exciting post that you dream about making, the one that says, I've got a book deal and my book is coming on this date, then it's time to get back to work and edit your book. You will go through a developmental edit with your editor, you'll go through a copy edit, a line edit, you'll go through a proofread. There is so much editing. And then amongst all of that editing, you're going to be doing all the other prep work that comes with getting a book published. So you'll be, they'll be sending you the cover. If they're doing an audiobook, then they'll be sending samples of narrators and things like that. You'll be having meetings with the marketing department and figuring out a blog tour or whatever they've got planned for you. And then once all of that work is complete, it is time for publication. So in a nutshell, that is how to get your book traditionally published. It's a long process, it's not quick, but it is so worth it. It's so worth it. And as someone who's got her debut novel coming out next month, like, oh my god, it's next month. It's the most rewarding experience ever, because you think back to all of the work that's gone into it, and then you think, my book is coming out next month. So I hope this was helpful, and like I said, please don't forget to pre-order my book. Pre-orders really help authors, and if you do read it and enjoy it, please do leave a review. They also massively help authors, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!